According to Diana Rossini and Tom Pelissero, the New York Jets are among a handful of teams, including the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers, who have been checking in on the veteran wide receiver market for a potential trade to bring in and help support this offense as we head towards cutdown day, now about a week away. So, perfect fit for me. I don't know how available he is. It would probably cost a significant draft asset for sure, would be Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts, who they're about 4 deep in the wide receiver room. And they also drafted Tyler Warren, who figures to be essentially their wide receiver too. So between Pittman and Warren, then you got Josh Downs, you got AD Mitchell, Alec Pierce on the last year of his deal, different quarterback than the one he was, somewhat successful with last year in Anthony Richardson chucking those moon balls to Alec Pierce. Now, what I like about Pierce is, number one, 25 years old. Number two, he's been durable. So we have the John Simpson criteria has been met. You don't want to be any big guaranteed money to a wide receiver after the age of 31. So they got to be like 28 or younger, even if you're going to trade for them. Number two, Alec Pierce has preposterous per target production because like the wide receiver two in a Jets offense, and in any NFL offense, it's an important position. But in this Jets offense, we don't need to pretend we don't know how it's going to look. It's going to be incredibly run heavy. And when it's not run heavy, Garrett Wilson is going to get a lot of passes. So a wide receiver two in this Jets offense is probably not going to be a 100 target player, right? So you got to have somebody who can eat and really produce on limited targets. Alec Pierce last year had 61 targets and he had over 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. 22 yards per reception, led the NFL, right? So he is a little bit of a one-trick pony. I'm going to run deep and I'm going to moss people. And I think that's different than Arian Smith. Well, number one, Arian Smith in college in Georgia, those deep in routes were his specialty. But he wins contested catches. And Justin Fields had a fair amount of success throwing those sideline prayer balls to Pickens last year to make contested catches. Alec Pierce can do that. And furthermore, I want the Jets to trade for some. If they're going to do this, if they're going to give up draft capital, have it be for somebody who is significantly better than Josh Reynolds. Don't give away a 5th or 6th round pick to just throw a name in the mix and feel like you did something. That's somebody who's not even better than Tyler Johnson, or maybe not even somebody better who can be cut in a couple of days. If you're trading assets for somebody, have it be somebody who is significantly better than Josh Reynolds, who it's like, bam, this is going to be, Garrett, Mason Taylor, Breece Hall, and this guy. Those are our top 4 passing weapons. Don't trade a 6th round pick, 5th round pick for some guy to, hey, he's in the mix. He's competing with Brandon Smith. There's no point in that. That solves nothing. But Alec Pierce definitely fits that criteria. He would be, by a wide margin, the second best receiver on this team. And you have to also have it be a receiver who understands the assignment. That's also why I like Alec Pierce, because, again, 61 targets, right? Because there's going to be games where the wide receiver 2 in this offense goes an entire half and they get 1 target. So are they going to go full Elijah Moore if they're not being featured enough in the offense? And of course, with Alec Pierce, you'd have to extend him. I want it to be someone who's going to be here 3, 4 years, 5 years. There's no point in giving away draft picks to rent a player, unless it's like a 7th round pick or whatever. But if you're giving away a 5th or higher, it has to be somebody who's going to be here for more than 1 year. And then you say, okay, you know what? We were going to spend a day 2 pick on wide receiver 2 next year. Instead, we're just going to spend that pick now and extend him. And then that position is solved. And then heading into next year, it's Garrett Wilson is your 1, Pierce is your 2, Arian Smith is your 3, and then 4 through 6 you can kind of fill with that minimum Tyler Johnson level signings and undrafted free agents, whatever. That would be how I would approach it. And it has to be somebody who understands, like, hey man, you're going to be asked to crack down on linebackers and free up Braylon Allen for a 5-yard run. That's a big part of your job. It's not going to be sexy. Yeah, that's why sign Keenan Allen. Dude, Keenan Allen was never moving to New Jersey to crack down on linebackers to free up Braylon Allen for 5 yards at a time to end his career. That was never real. Even Amari Cooper, if he has anything left, the Jets, like they're not an inviting offense for a wide receiver to have their final act. They want to go somewhere sunshiny and catch some passes. They don't want to be the Jets wide receiver room. Say what you want about them. They're not the most talented group. There are some dogs in this wide receiver room. Go watch the Giants game. Watch Brandon Smith come around on a wham on that first play action boot and destroy a linebacker. Watch Tyler Johnson come in on a crackdown on that little trap play to Braylon Allen where Jeremy Ruckert's falling on the floor. Watch Tyler Johnson come in and meet a linebacker in the hole, turn his back, seal him off. Boom, Braylon Allen gets 6 yards. If he doesn't make that block, it's a 0-yard gain. No block, no rock. That decision was made when they signed Justin Fields, and the Jets are not pretending to be anything they're not. You know what's coming. I know what's coming. They're going to run this damn ball 40 times a game. So if you're if you are a pass catcher in this offense and your name doesn't rhyme with Smerritt Pilson, you're going to be rolling your sleeves up and doing some dirty work. That's just the reality of what it is. So that player has to kind of be on board with that. Alec Pierce, I know coming out of Cincinnati, that was a big part of his game. He was a physical blocker. I don't know if that's still the case. Obviously, he has the size profile to do it, and he's been durable. He's young, and we already know that he has produced a lot on limited targets. That's why I think it's a good fit because, hey, you want to bracket Garrett Wilson? Okay, well, we have a dude who, if you give him one-on-one and you're rolling the safety towards Garrett, he can burn you. That's why number one to me would be Alec Pierce. I also, and I just saw right before I started this that Jacoby Myers was asked about his potential future with the Raiders, and he was kind of, I want to be here, but I don't know if they want to extend me, whatever. That regime didn't bring him in. Jacoby Myers is an absolute beast. Jacoby Myers is who the Jets should have signed instead of signing Allen Lazard, because Jacoby Myers has some of the best hands in the NFL and Allen Lazard has some of the worst. But Jacoby Myers did not know a secret handshake with the Jets quarterback at the time, so of course we had to give Lazard $40 million. Now, if Jacoby Myers could be had for a trade, he's still 28, so he's kind of right on that limit of a wide receiver you want to acquire. But man, 1,000 yards last year, and let me see, 1, 2, carry the 3, divide by, 0 drop passes. Imagine that. He's never dropped more than 3 passes in his career. The most underrated receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, has great hands. He would be an awesome fit, and he's played with a lot of bad quarterbacks on some bad teams. To me, he's like the anti-diva wide receiver. You never hear a peep. He just shows up and does his damn job. So Alec Pierce, Jacoby Myers. If you're gonna give up draft picks, go get a dude. We're not trading for Jalen Polk. Yeah, that's some other team's Malachi Corley. Why am I trading a pick for Jalen Polk? Romeo Doubs. Okay, Romeo Doubs was suspended by the Green Bay Packers last year for conduct detrimental to the team because he bailed on a practice because he was not happy with his role in the offense, getting 5.5 targets per game. We're going to trade for a player so he can get, 1 target in a half, even if the Jets win, and then he's going to go full Elijah Moore. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Aaron Glenn is not trading for Romeo Doubs. Take that from the source of common sense. So Pierce, Jacoby Myers, those are the two needle moving acquisitions. From then on, you could rattle off a bunch of names who maybe could be like a wide receiver 3 better than Tyler Johnson. I don't know if there's a lot of names I'd rather see than Arian Smith. Just play Arian Smith. Why am I trading for somebody who may or may not be better than Arian Smith? So if you're going to get a dude, get an actual dude who's a needle moving player who is going to be here for at least 3 years, who can be productive without a ton of volume, can understand the assignment that they're going to have to roll up their sleeves and block and do dirty work. And then go make this move. If that player exists, then go make the move. Cool. Obviously, Terry McLaurin is not happening. We don't need to waste any time on that. But yeah, Jets should definitely be on the phone. Why not? UConn Jet Super Chat, thanks, man, says Pierce, Anthony Jennings, backup swing tackles. So yeah, Anthony Jennings is an edge player for the Patriots who I believe he's been a good run defender. It's just a lot of these times, when you hear these leaked names, guys are trying to trade players. You're talking with guys like that, you're talking 7th round pick because you don't want to trade for a player that's going to be cut. It's hey man, Malachi Corley, he was a high 3rd round pick last year. Is anyone going to trade for him? No, because they know the Jets are going to cut him. maybe a future seventh just to make sure they get him and they don't have to put in a waiver claim. Maybe. But that's what you're talking about there. Guys like that on roster bubbles, no more than a seventh round pick. Because you're trading for a guy that's going to be cut. You don't really want to do that. But yeah, Pierce is a beast. We talked about him a ton heading into that 2022 draft class, right? We talked about him a ton. And he's done exactly what, his scouting report said he'd be able to do. Chris Olave, I don't see that being a fit because he is a player where the price. I mean, he's a wide receiver one when he's healthy. So that then you're talking about the price to extend him and the concussions, man. It's a non-starter. To me, Olave is a non-starter with the concussions. Obviously, he's very good. And like with a player of that profile where it's like you're going to have two wide receiver ones, I just think you're having Justin Fields as your quarterback for this year minimum, and maybe even to start next year. Like if you ask me who's the Jets starting quarterback on opening day next year, I'd probably say Justin Fields. Even if they draft a rookie, maybe they don't want to start the rookie right away, like the Giants are doing with Russell Wilson, right? Instead of Jackson Dart. So you're almost burning a year of the value of that receiver. And people can say that as a negative. It's not really an opinion. Like this is the way the offense is going to be. I have no complaints. This is the way the offense is going to be because this gives them the best chance based on their personnel. They're going to hand the ball off to running backs a ton. That's plan A. Plan B is Garrett Wilson. Plan C is Justin Fields' legs. So any receiver you bring in is going to be plan D at a minimum. You cannot trade like a really expensive asset and do some $25 million extension because the first year of that player, this offense cannot support multiple, like not even 850 yard receivers. I don't think, no matter who it is. There's not enough passes will be thrown for that to happen. So I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's almost like the most pass happy offense in the NFL. If they went and they got an expensive second running back, that wouldn't make any sense. Thank you, Dylan Barr. Can Justin Fields make a new handshake with Allen Lazard and make things better? Well, we can chance. We can try. What's up, Matt? Pierce may have also been teammates with Sauce in college. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Pierce can play. Pierce is good. The priority is a blocking tight end to replace Ruckert. Yeah, for sure. But I don't think you need to trade for that. Again, that would fall in the conditional seventh round pick bucket. I think if you just want a tight end who can block, I truly do think you could probably get something better than Ruckert on cut down day. But I would agree. Great, because there's no way we was walking into the season with this wide receiver core. Yeah, I mean, look, this is just my preference of what the Jets will do, and this is the report. But they might. Obviously, there's a greater chance with any individual player. There's a greater chance they don't trade for Alec Pierce than they do. We could say that with any individual trade, right? Yeah, I mean, I think they might be the wide receiver core that they had this year. Not every hole can be filled in a year. This year, it's like, do you have a coaching staff? Do you have a coaching staff who can make the win total higher than the on paper win total? Because last year on paper, oh my gosh, Mike Clay of ESPN says number one roster in the NFL. Even though their over under from Vegas was like 9.5 wins, they won 5 games. All Jet fans are saying, oh, we could compete with the Buffalo Bills for the division. They win 5 games. So can you make the win total on paper? Because now people are saying we're trash. I mean, I've seen, and not even Jet fans just trying to be like negative or troll, like legitimately, like I've watched this team a long time. I'm hoping for the best, but I'm seeing 3 to 4 wins. I see that comment all the time, and maybe it'll happen. I hope not, but okay, people are saying we're going to win 3-4 games. Well, who are we going to pick with the top 3 pick next year? Vegas has us at 5.5 wins. Now ESPN says we have the 27th best roster in the NFL. Okay, beat that. beat expectations, win 7-8 games. Winning 8 games while getting younger and cheaper and already smashing through the Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas ceiling in year one while inheriting the second most amount of dead money in the NFL from them, while they peeled off 2 second-round picks to rent Rodgers, a third-round pick to rent Devontae, a third-round pick to rent Hassan Reddick, stripped all those players from me that still could be on this team. And that's why we have holes at wide receiver. That's why we have a hole at defensive tackle. That's why you have a hole at edge, at safety. Those are all the picks right there. There they went. Bye-bye. Those are those holes, right? So smash the Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas ceiling. Year one. Win 8 games. How about that? That would be awesome. While getting younger and cheaper. Have Justin Fields have the best year of his career. Because I get it. Either Justin Fields is Tim Tebow. He doesn't even belong on an NFL roster. And it's pointless even talking about it. And you're a shill for the organization if you say that they could even score any points with him. Okay. Or Justin Fields is a complete star. Anyone who doesn't know it is an idiot. He just needs an offensive coordinator who whispers sweet nothings into his ear, and he's going to go out there and be a combination of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Okay. Well, in the reality of that's neither of those. And the reality that's neither of those. Have him have the best year of his career. Have him have the best year of his career. Throw for 3,000 yards. By all the analytics that actually tell us how well a quarterback is doing, instead of he threw for this many yards, like, yes, at least 3,000, but who cares if it's 3,100 or 3,400 yards per attempt, DVOA, a completion percentage over expected, wins, points per game, those the things that actually matter. Have him have the best season of his career. That's it. That's all I can ask for. Am I going to call for Aaron Glenn's job if he makes Justin Fields better? If Tanner Anderson and Aaron Glenn make Justin Fields better, but not a star quarterback? No, that's ridiculous. Make him have the best year of his career. Do better for Justin Fields than the Bears and the Steelers did. That's it. Break the Andy Dalton line. We know where the Andy Dalton line is. The Jets could not cross the Andy Dalton line last year, even though they had a Hall of Fame quarterback, 2 top receivers, Mike Williams, and offensive line. They could not break the Andy Dalton line. Break the Andy Dalton line and be higher than 24th in points per game in the NFL. That's it. Can we do that? I think you could do that. I think you should be able to do that without Alec Pierce. But if you can get better at a reasonable price, then you should always be willing to do that. G5 gets 8 targets per game, and the tight ends or running backs combined for another 8 targets. How many targets do we expect to go to wide receiver 2 through 4? Yeah, that's kind of my point. And that's kind of my point, man, with this wide receiver 2 thing. And maybe they're playing a trick on us. Maybe it's not going to look like how it's looked in camp and preseason. Maybe they're going to drop back and say, we're Joe Burrow, and we're going to chuck the ball 600 times a game. Maybe, but I have a feeling we know what it's going to look like. It's going to be run heavy. Now, obviously, you're still going to throw a lot of passes. It's still the NFL. You still need a passing offense. So wide receiver 2 is important, but you're just talking about resource allocation. I would really like the Jets to get to have gotten a second tight end, because you can get that so much cheaper. You're talking $6 to $8 million for whatever Noah Fant, the Mike Gesicki's of the world, who aren't great, but can get you 500-600 yards, and then you can play 12 personnel, because you have to also look at the Jets personnel groupings in their first team offense in the preseason, which is the information we have to go off of so far. Could be different, but I have a feeling it's not going to be that much different. The Jets ran 11 personnel 50% of the time, 12 personnel 44%, and then 21 about 5%. So they're probably going to have the highest amount of heavy personnel package, at least top 4 in the NFL. So half of their plays, third wide receiver might not even be on the field. You kind of have to factor that in. Pierce is a quality receiver. I agree. Justin Fields made a pass to Garrett Wilson in a real game. Garrett Wilson will get crushed. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. Highest I'd give up is a 4. Yeah, I mean, I guess then you're just shopping in the 4th round pick aisle. So are you getting someone who's clearly going to be the second passing option behind Garrett Wilson? If you're not, then I don't want to give up really almost anything. To me, I don't want to go in the middle. I don't want to throw another body in there. Either get a dude or just roll with what you have, or wait till cut down day, or have an offensive staff and quarterback combination for once who can elevate role players like Bo Nix and Sean Payton did last year, like Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury did last year, like Josh Allen and Joe Brady do. Well, Fields sucks. He can't go through a read. All right, then we don't. Then wide receiver 2 is a moot point. So you see like the circular logic. Okay, here's the diagram. Fields sucks. Okay, boom. Doesn't matter. Wide receiver 2 doesn't matter. Done talking about it. Great. Fields is great. He's a star. He's amazing. Okay, then he, given coaching and offensive line play and Garrett Wilson, can elevate Mason Taylor and Josh Reynolds and have a functional offense. Those are the 2 ways of the diagram. All teams are going to do is double team Garrett Wilson on passing downs. This isn't going to end well, and we already know this guy gets frustrated easy. So trade for Alec Pierce, man. Trade for Alec Pierce, sign Amari Cooper, like do what we got to do. But the idea that having a top 15 receiver and a top 40 pick you just spent on at tight end and a running back who's led the league in receptions just a year ago, like that, you're not going to be able to have a functioning offense. Then your quarterback and your offensive coordinator aren't good enough. And that's either the quarterback and the offensive coordinator can elevate role players, given protection and given Garrett and given a top 15 receiver and a really good run game, and given Mason Taylor, either they can elevate Josh Reynolds to have a role, because who's in the Bills? Keon Coleman could go down for the season right now. The Buffalo Bills could trade the Jets a 5th round pick for Josh Reynolds, and they would be perfectly fine. And Josh Reynolds would be perfectly adequate as their second receiver. They'd be fine. They'd have a top 10 offense because their quarterback and their play caller are capable enough of elevating role players given protection. Right? Now, obviously, that's Josh Allen. He's an MVP. So there's levels to it. But you get what I'm saying. You get the point that I'm making here. And the Jets should try to get better. Try to get better at wide receiver. I just don't like they're already built an excuse that because teams are going to double team our top 15 receiver in the most run heavy offense in the NFL, that already we're going to have a bottom 3 offense just because of that. If the Jets have a bottom 3 offense, it wasn't a Gabe Davis away from being saved. Do we kind of get that? There's no way where which we look back at this season and it's Fields completely regressed. Oh my gosh, we have to cut him and eat the $10 million dead money. We have questions about our coaching staff. We were 29th in points per game. We won 3 games because we didn't sign Amari Cooper or trade for Romeo Doubs. That's not based in reality. That's not an excuse. What is an excuse? Okay, Garrett Wilson retires, wants to start a podcast. 3 of our starting offensive linemen get injured. Okay, yeah, now you're kind of screwed. And the coach and the offensive coordinator can't really do much to mitigate that. I'll buy that. But right now, looking at this roster, right now we're a bottom 3 offense. But if we trade for Romeo Doubs, we're gonna be fine. That's not there's never been an offense in NFL history that's been the case for. That's not based in reality. Again, go get a dude, go get better. But I don't buy walking into the season with the excuse that we're Romeo Doubs away, but we're doomed without him. Coach, quarterback, elevate role player. You block. You hit a pass. Crawl out of the bottom third in the NFL in points per game. I mean, come on. Enough. Remember last year? Last year, even the games where you had Olu, Simpson, Tittman, ABT, Morgan Moses, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, even Tyler Conklin, who's like mid. Tyler Conklin's going to be the Chargers tight end one. They're a playoff team. We couldn't score. We scored the second fewest amount of points of any team who had their QB1 for at least 12 games, and still it was excuses. So the excuses already is proof that the excuses will be there no matter what. No matter, like, we can give top 15 receivers adequate pass protection. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Tyler Conklin, who's serviceable. Still all these excuses. So enough. I can't do it anymore, man. I can't do it. This isn't the 2020 Jets roster where your best player on offense is the hologram of Frank Gore. Call a play, hit a pass, score more than 20 points a game. Enough. I can't. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind with this. Where Gabe Davis away from having a functioning offense. I can't do it. That being said, I would love Alec Pierce. Pierce for Corley and a 4, dude, done. I don't think Indy is doing that because I don't even know if Corley has any trade value. But if they want to take a shot on Corley for kicks, I would throw him in there. It's very upsetting that they're not even going to get a draft pick for Corley. That's a bummer. Maybe they'll do. Remember a couple preseasons ago, they gave Denzel Mims like 12 targets in a preseason game, and then they traded him for a conditional 7th. Maybe they'll do that Friday night. The second half is just get a 7th round pick for Corley season. We haven't had 8 wins in a decade. Oh my God. That's what I'm saying. We haven't had a top 22 offense or won 8 games in 10 years. Do that year one, man. Have the 22nd best offense in the NFL. Go 8-9. That's a win for year one. What do I think of Skinner? Oh, dude, every time he gets a chance, he makes a play. So if they keep 7 receivers, I'd rather keep Skinner. I'd rather keep Skinner than Lazard. The problem is I'd rather keep Skinner than Pritchett, but Pritchett returns punts. So for Skinner to make the team, he's got to be one of your top 5 receivers because wide receiver 6 is almost baked in for punt returner. But Skinner's nice. Skinner should definitely be on the practice squad. Fields does not throw with consistent anticipation. That's the biggest issue, not wide receiver 2. Sign ABT and Simpson, develop within CKC and Buffalo since he signed both Burrow and still in trouble. So if Simpson and ABT, if we're at the bye week this year and Simpson and ABT are as durable and as effective as they were last year, to me, it's not my money, but to me, I would sign them both to market value and then just say, you know what, we don't have to spend a day 1 or a day 2 pick on offensive line for 3 years. How about that? Well, you can't pay 2 guards, 17. I mean, we're paying, maybe not. Maybe they don't want to do that. Like, I get it. Like, oh, we have to have perfect resource allocation. You let one walk and then you draft. Like, why are we getting cute on offensive line? If they are performing really well, freaking pay them. Pay them. Who cares? When is a time in Jets history where we've been upset that they paid a good player? We're never upset. Maybe they pay a guy. Okay, Muhammad Wilkerson. Yeah, he broke his leg in half before they paid him. Don't pay a guy with a head breaks his leg in half, and he had like substance abuse issues. It's kind of sad. It's like a whole separate thing. But don't do that. Don't pay a guy who breaks his leg in half on the last game of the season. Granted, we never regret paying good players who have shown they've been good on the Jets, who don't break their leg in the last game. When has that ever happened? We regret bringing in Alan Lazard. We regret bringing in Laken Tomlinson. He was never good on the Jets. He was good. He was okay on the Niners, playing next to Trent Williams in one of the best offensive schemes in the NFL. I'm talking about guys who are good on the Jets, good with the courage, demonstrate they could be successful in this scheme, who are not old, who have at least a decent track record of health in the past like 2 seasons or so. That's with ABT. You can't pay ABT right now. I'm sorry. He has to demonstrate. You need 10 more healthy games out of him. So then you could say, okay, you've played 27 out of the last 29 games, we're going to pay you. Simpson, you can't pay Simpson right now either, in my opinion, because he was really good for 1 year. You got to make sure that wasn't a fluke. 10 games in, Simpson's still good. AVT still healthy. Pay them both. You're not drafting an offensive lineman besides for depth on day 3 for the next 3 years. That's what I would do. I'm not trying to save money and we're going to re-sign Myers. He's going to start at center. That's going to be, that's going to be annoying. It's going to be immediate drop off. Myers is going to be getting his ass kicked on 3rd and 1. I'm telling you, don't do that. Pay him. You're not going to have a big cap hit for Olu and Membu for 3 years. So by the time those cap hits come, ABT and Simpson would have, you can stagger them. And even if you have an expensive offensive line, if it's good, who gives a shit? Have an expensive offensive line. Great. If they're good, awesome. Offensive line is an important thing to have. Regardless of who the quarterback is. No, that's a scheme and quarterback proof thing. Offensive line is very important. Are we just cursed? Yeah, probably. Do you think they could be drafting wide receiver in next year's draft? Yeah, I mean, if you look at the wide receiver room, it's a bunch of 1-year deals. So even if Smith hits and he looks like he could be a player, Tyler Johnson, Josh Reynolds are on 1-year deals. Allen Lazard's on 1-year deals. So the wide receiver room is going to need multiple bodies next year. Yeah, signing another guy won't stop teams from doubling unless you really want to go and get like an Alec Pierce level guy or higher. Because he's the only level of player. Like signing Romeo Doubs, it's like, okay, you're in 12 personnel. You sign Romeo Doubs. You want to put him in instead of Josh Reynolds? That doesn't change anything from the defensive coordinator's perspective, right? Unless you're getting a dude who would be like a low end, who's a low end wide receiver 1 kind of player, like Pierce might be. Even though he had 37 catches last year, it's crazy at 800 yards. He's a very unique player. But that's not changing. Trading for Juwan Jennings is not changing that. Trading for Kendrick Bourne is not changing that. So it's got to be Myers, Pierce, like a player who actually, hey man, if we double Garrett, this guy's going to punish us. Needle movers. We could trade for Curtis Samuel. We could do it. We could do it to say we did it, but the defensive coordinator is going to say, okay, that's cute. We're still doubling Garrett Wilson. You can go ahead, Justin Fields, throw it to Curtis Samuel, all you like. And we will take our chances. All right. Terry McLaurin, Chris Olave, I can't even entertain it. It's not real. Chris Olave is 1 hospital pass away from retirement. Terry McLaurin is a commander. Juwan Jennings is interesting. He's younger. Why are the 49ers are like, why would they be getting rid of him? Because it's not like they have a ton of really good receivers. So he is, how old is he? He's 28. He just turned 28. Okay, so he's right under that threshold of like, all right. Wow, he had 975 yards last year and 6 touchdowns. Okay. And he missed 2 games. So he's pretty much on track to break over 1,000 yards. That's pretty impressive. What is he, a scheme merchant? Why would they trade him? I don't understand. Maybe he probably want more money. He's on the last year of his deal. So you'd probably have to extend him. Do you want to trade for him and extend him? I feel like I don't know enough about this player to say off the top of my head, but I'm looking at his analytic profile last year and it looked like he had a very impressive year, to be honest. And 4 drops, which is okay. That's like the number you can live with for a pretty high volume receiver. 10 yards average depth of target, which isn't too extreme one way or the other. Yards after catch per reception doesn't look like, especially in that San Francisco scheme, if you're not getting a lot of yak in that scheme, it tells me he's not very elusive. But I mean, yeah, this dude would be the second best receiver on our team, probably, right? I still would like to go a little. I would still would like to go younger if you could. I still would like to go younger if you could. If Fields has 80% of Murray or Hurts, they can make the playoffs. Yeah, I would take that. With legit, I know Kyler Murray is kind of like a meme, but I don't know, man. The Arizona Cardinals, the scoring points was not their problem last year. We saw that. Kyler Murray went like 20 of 22 with a couple of rushing touchdowns against us. He cut through our defense like we weren't even there. So Kyler Murray would be the best quarterback the Jets have had since Chad Pennington. It's not even discussion. So we can make fun of him all we want. Kyler can play. They can make the playoffs a legit number 2 receiver. If not, they win 6-7 games. That is the bottom line. So you think a wide receiver 2 could potentially be like a 3+ win difference on this team? Which wide receiver 2? That's got to be a pretty good wide receiver 2, because last year we traded for Devontae Adams and our win percentage was worse and our points per game were the exact same. So that's got to be a pretty damn good wide receiver 2 if they're a 3-win player. How many 3-win non-quarterbacks are there in the NFL? I don't know. If we trade for Micah Parsons, are we winning 3 more games? Like, that's the kind of player you'd have to get to move the needle. 3 wins. 3 wins is a lot. We lost 7 one-score games. Leadership matters. Yeah, of course. Leadership, situational football, everything. Kyle says, I don't get the whole Jets need a wide receiver 2 narrative, to be honest. Look around the league. The Bills wide receiver room is objective trash. Ravens too. Chargers not great either. Those teams have good coaching and good QBs. Yeah. I mean, I'll still say like those teams that you mentioned probably still have a better wide receiver 2 than Josh Reynolds. I would probably say. And the Jets, I know the Jets are going to like be struggling to throw the ball, and someone's going to come back and say, "I told you we needed Romeo Doubs." It's like, dude, guys, sure, get Romeo Doubs, fine. Even if it just stops this conversation, just do it. Just do it. And if it's the 10% of you who are watching just because you love Justin Fields and you want him to have all the chance, fine, do it. Give him a 6-round pick so we could end the topic. But give an offensive line. I'm going to keep saying this. I'm going to put up a sign. Give an offensive line. That's good. Given an offensive coordinator, that's good. We don't know if they're good. If he's not good, then the wide receiver 2 doesn't matter. All right, we follow. So given offensive line, given coaching, given a top 15 receiver, given a running game, given Mason Taylor. If the coach and the quarterback are capable, you can have a functioning offense with what the Jets have on their roster. Now, if you're like, hey, man, you think this team is really close, and you're like, dude, a wide receiver 2 in here could be the difference between us winning 8 games and sitting at home, or 9 games and making the playoffs. Yes. All right, then go ahead and do it. I got no complaints with that. Well, I am rejecting the argument that says because of the Jets wide receiver depth behind Garrett Wilson, we are automatically going to have a bottom 3 offense. But if we got a quote unquote wide receiver 2 who would probably get like 480 yards in this offense, then we're going to have like an above average offense. That doesn't track to me. That doesn't track to me. How good would Fields have to perform for you to buy in on him being the future and not a 1-year rental? I mean, as good as Gino and Sam and Baker did before they got their extensions, I guess, right? All those teams went to the playoffs. All those teams had above average offenses. I'm gonna Tanner Engstrand and look, Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, and I'm not saying just year 1, but at the end of the day, with a big enough sample size, Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji have one stat: wins and losses. That's it. Justin Fields and Tanner Engstrand have one stat to me: points per game. Because what quarterback, like if you have a good quarterback and you have a good offensive coordinator, points per game. Bo Nix and Sean Payton. 10th in scoring, points per game. Cool. Don't need any other stats. Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. 6th in points per game. All right. Ben Johnson and Jared Goff. There they are. Josh Allen and Joe Brady. Oh, found them. Todd Monken and Lamar. There they are. Points per game. Who's the good QB and an offensive coordinator combo who aren't scoring good in points per game? Even Joe Burrow, offensive coordinator, is he even that good? Offensive line, is it good? No. Points per game, 7th. They missed the playoffs because they had a horrible defense. If the Jets have a horrible defense and they're not winning games, that is not on Justin Fields and Tanner Engstrand. That's why I don't believe in QB wins. Is Jared Goff better than Joe Burrow because his team, won more games? Is Bo Nix better than Joe Burrow because his team made the playoffs and Joe Burrow's didn't because Bo Nix had a top 5 defense? No. And that is reflected in every single stat we can imagine, of course, and also Joe Burrow's team scoring more points per game than Bo Nix's team. So yeah, man, you got to be like, dude, they got to be at least in the teens in points per game, like at like league average in points per game. That has to start there, because everything else we're going to argue is this guy's fault, it's that guy's fault. You got to be league average in points per game. There's like no good quarterbacks who are not doing that. And if it's, oh, well, they were 22nd points per game, but I know it's the offensive coordinator. Okay, but you can't say, okay, we're bought into the QB, but we know it's the OC. We've been down that road too many times. You got to see it. If you're going to say the guy is the guy, you got to see it. Even Sam Darnold, his breakout year, I love Sam. I'm rooting for him. It was 1 year in like near perfect circumstances. I don't know. I think he might have a little bit of a regression. He'll still be okay, but he might have a little bit of a regression. So you got to be averaging points per game. You got to be at least, throwing for like around 3,000 yards, like a moderate volume, moderate efficiency passing offense. And then he'll be under contract for the next year. So the Jets don't even have to make a decision because he's under a 2-year contract, which gives the Jets some flexibility. Maybe he improves. And they're like, you know what? First year in the offense, you took a lot of steps forward. Now we're heading into next year's draft, and we feel like if a quarterback doesn't fall to us that we like, we can play you again. So we're kind of in the middle. Maybe that happens. Maybe there's an 8-win season, and they're like, all right, you know what? Wide receiver 2, even though it did not prevent us from having a functional offense, giving offensive line and Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor, even though it didn't limit us from having a functional offense, quarterback and signal caller, elevated role players, we had the 19th best offense, won 8 games. All right. Now let's go get a wide receiver 2, and now let's level it up, and now let's have the 13th, 14th best offense. And Justin Fields, you can go play again. Hey, you crush it now in 2026, then we're talking long-term deal. I mean, for the Jets to extend him after this season, forget what I think. For the Jets to have to extend him after this season, he would have to play really, really well. You know what I mean? Because even if, think about it, with Sam, if the Vikings had signed him to a 2-year deal, they probably would have just kept him. They would have just kept him on that. They wouldn't have extended him. They would have said, okay, great. You can take your second year for $10 million and we'll play you again and we'll see how it goes from there. But because he was on a 1-year deal, obviously he was able to cash in. Forget Dobbs. He won't make a big difference. I actually agree with that. If he's willing to take a reasonable deal, I would do it now. The price will always go up. Well, it's always a balance. Like, what's a reasonable deal? It's always a balance. Like, you don't want to get burned with injuries. So to me, I would rather pay a tax on AVT at the bye week and be confident that he's demonstrated a second year of health. I'd rather pay the tax and have that information. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, if they sign him now, I'm not going to complain. Yeah, Christian Watkins, I honestly even forgot about him. Christian Watson. What's up, Jerome? Was I talking about Jacoby Myers? Yes. I love Myers. He is an absolute beast. Fields is not a spray QB yet, if ever. 1 or 2 reads max. We have a wide receiver star, Breece Hall, Taylor, and Smart. That's plenty of receivers. Yeah, Eddie, I like what you're saying, man. Like, let's for once, like, have an abundance mindset, because if you dropped in, name your quarterback and OC combo who's good. It's tough, because it's tough to find, like, who's average, because obviously Joe Brady and Josh Allen, like, it's Josh Allen, right? Sean Payton and Bo Nix, like, Bo Nix is okay. He's a good example of an okay quarterback, but Sean Payton is like a Hall of Fame offensive guru. So let's like, what's an like, I would say, okay, um, Liam Cohen. I know he's not there anymore, but like Liam Cohen and Baker Mayfield. If you dropped in Liam Cohen and Baker Mayfield to this Jets offense, would they be as good as when they had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and now they have like a Buka? No. Would they have a functioning offense? Yes. Yes, they would. Baker Mayfield made the playoffs and broke the rookie record for touchdowns in 15 games with the Browns, and they didn't even have a lot of weapons. So yes, that's a good example of like solid OC quarterback tandem who are capable of elevating role players. Like that 4th round pick they drafted last year, went out there, had like 500 yards. Yeah, Baker Mayfield and Liam Cohen dropped right in here behind this offensive line with the top 15 receiver, with a running back who's a year removed from leading all running backs in receiving, and a running back too who half the fan base has is better than that guy, and Mason Taylor, who Cade Otton was a player in Tampa Bay. Anyone ever heard of him before? No. They'd be fine. Josh Reynolds would not impede Baker Mayfield and Liam Cohen from having an offense that could score enough points to be competitive. It wouldn't. You cannot convince me otherwise of that. So that's why I agree with you, Eddie. Like, we have to have a coaching staff again, because of course it's not saying like, oh, Sam Darnold with no offensive line, with no wide receiver one, with no running backs, go work magic. That's not what we're being asked. That's not what they're being asked to do. It's not what they're being asked to do. So yes, for once, have a coaching staff who can get more out of the players than they have. We are living in a scarcity mindset with this offensive personnel because we never have good offensive coaching and we never have good quarterback play. So in our mind, we need like an all-pro at almost every position on offense to think we could score points. This is not the case if you have a coach and a quarterback who's capable. So let's find out. Well, if Garrett Wilson stubs his toe, then yeah, we're screwed, man. A lot of teams are screwed if their number one receiver goes down. A lot of teams are screwed in that case. It is what it is. You know, and nobody they're trading for is mitigating that. What would have mitigated that is like drafting Tetairoa McMillan, who, by the way, is going to be good. He's going to be good. I don't care. I stand by Tet being my number 2 preference in the draft, behind Membu. Tyler Warren 3rd. But yeah, man, Romeo Doubs is not mitigating that. If you trade for Romeo Doubs or whoever else you like in that tier, and Garrett Wilson is injured, you are just as screwed as if you did not trade for Romeo Doubs. Right? Alec Pierce maybe prevents you from being quite as screwed. It really shouldn't be that hard to score points, man. That's what I'm saying, man. It shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that hard. Again, Andy Dalton, the Andy Dalton line. Andy Dalton was throwing passes to Adam Thielen last year. Okay, in 5 games, Andy Dalton throwing passes to Adam Thielen last year. Scored more points per game in that sample than the Jets did. Even if you take the games where they just had Devontae, where they didn't have Greg Z, and they didn't have Tyron Smith, they could not outscore Andy Dalton throwing to Adam Thielen. And we still made excuses. So that to me, I can't. I said at that moment, I'm like, I can't do it anymore. Coach, quarterback, figure it out to score more points than Andy Dalton. I don't want to hear any more excuses, because we could literally give our guy 2 top 20 receivers. OC, you can be the OC. You can pick your OC. Alan Lazard, you want him? Cool. Malachi Corley, you liked him in the draft. Here you go. Dalvin Cook, you want to bring him in? Here he comes. Mike Williams, he ran the wrong route. You want him banished and traded away? Goodbye. It's your show. Could not cross the Andy Dalton line, and we're still lining up for excuses. I can't do it, man. Coach and quarterback, figure it out. Score more points to Andy Dalton. Score more points to Andy Dalton. That is your job, Tanner Engstrand and Justin Fields. If you do not do that, You failed, and it's not because you didn't have Romeo Doubs. I don't want to hear it. All right. Why am I worked up about this? It's really not that big of a deal. I don't know why. Everyone is go Jets. Crispy, calm me down. Why am I worked up over wide receiver 2? Why am I worked up over Romeo Doubs? I really shouldn't be. What's up, BJF? I think it's going to be a fun year. I think Fields is a game time QB. His wheels make him versatile. I just hope they don't have him running all over the place. He's going to be running quite a bit. That's kind of part of it, right? Yeah, I'm excited. It's funny because this year's offense is going to be like there's going to be massively frustrating things about it to watch, but almost in the exact opposite way. Like this year's offense, if we're in 3rd and 8, we're going to be like, oh gosh, how are we going to do this? Last year, that was 3rd and 2. The Jets would be in 3rd and 2 last year, and I'm like, what kind of miracle is going to have to happen for them to convert this first down? Because they would never go under center. Didn't have any creativity in terms of like other teams do, like a little tight end shuffle pass, a quick end around, like misdirection. They couldn't do any of that. They had no mobility at the quarterback position. Like every other team, like 3rd and 2 is just like a quick little quarterback keeper, and they get that. Like even like a Jackson Dart, Bo Nix level athlete, that's in every team's repertoire. So they didn't have that. And of course, their offensive line was coached by Keith Carter, and Breece Hall just didn't have the juice and short yardage last year. So 3rd and 2 was like a nightmare last year. But this year, you get to 3rd and 2, and you're like, we're kind of good. We're going to give it to Braylon Allen under center. How about that? With maybe a fullback in the game behind Membu and ABT. And if he gets a half yard short, we're going to get right back up there, and we're going to do the tush push. That's how this offense is going to kind of go. That is why the number one thing that I'm looking for Justin Fields, which is why he didn't play well in the second preseason game. What I liked was ball out. That pass, that slant route to Garrett Wilson, it was like a yard behind him. And let's give some credit. Those Giants defensive backs were clamping Garrett Wilson. He was not double teamed. He wasn't double teamed. They were just covering him well. I don't know what to tell you. Flott, I think it was a guy named Flott, was clamping Garrett Wilson. Like that happened. Now a perfect throw, it's a completed pass on that slant, no doubt about it. But when I saw that pass, I was just like, good, ball out. It was a yard behind. Okay, the pass is batted down. It wasn't in a turnover-worthy play. You got the ball out. That's what this offense needs to do. And you could tell Fields has been drilled to do that. Like even on the scramble in the Giants game, quick, he made the decision. Yeah, he had a pass out in the flat that maybe could have gained 2-3 more yards than his scramble. That's to me, that's like nitpicking. I don't care. Boom, got a field, got down, took the 7 yards, move on to the next play. Quick decisions, ball out, or scramble forward aggressively. He hasn't done any of the run backwards spinoramas that he's done in the past. He hasn't patted the ball for an egregiously long time and gotten himself like a coverage sack, a QB sack. We didn't see any of those. It wasn't a lot of reps. It wasn't all pretty, but I really came away feeling good that we didn't see any of those. Ball out. That's what he's got to do, because this offense, they're playing to get to 3rd and 2 and then just another run, and we're going to keep it moving again and then take some shot plays in the mix there. And they can, doing that, honestly, they can probably score 21 points a game and be competitive. I really think they can. What they cannot do is take sacks. This offense is not built to climb themselves. You take a sack on first down, you're 2nd and 16, you're done. You might as well punt. So they cannot do that. They cannot do that. Now, obviously, you're going to take some sacks, of course, but they can't be above average in sack rate allowed. They won't survive. I'd almost rather just chuck it deep and have it be an interception. Honestly, I think sack avoidance in terms of both a quarterback and offensive coordinator and offense in general, like sack avoidance is the biggest thing that is overlooked. If you look at it's taking points off the board. You take a sack on a drive, the amount of points you score on a drive where on average where you take a sack or don't, it's almost as good as a turnover. Pretty much every 2 sacks you take is like an interception. So ball out. That's what I've liked. That's my biggest takeaway from Fields from a positive in the preseason. There was only one play did he go longer than 3 seconds before deciding to throw or scramble. And he had perfect protection. So it's like, okay, if they're giving you all day to throw, then whatever, take it. But that's the biggest thing. Got to get the ball out. And he's done that. That play where it was 3rd and short, he recognized he had a one-on-one matchup against Garrett Wilson, took the ball, ripped it in there. Okay, he made a bad throw, whatever, it happens. I still like the process there from Fields. You got one-on-one with your number one receiver on a slant, fire the ball in there, no hesitation, on a stacked box. That was fine. I didn't come away from that play being like, oh my gosh, we're doomed. Because we know that Justin Fields isn't the single most accurate quarterback in the NFL. But I think the thing that he can improve, that is realistic for him to improve the most, is getting sacked less. And if he's getting sacked less, and he's, I don't know, let me check the last 17 games, completing 63% of his passes, throwing for 7 yards per attempt, over a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, and being like a top 3 rushing quarterback in the NFL, you got a chance. You got a chance if you keep the sacks down. Does Dobbs have a high drop rate? I didn't even know that. Am I even saying his name right? Is it Dobbs or Dobbs? I don't even know. Any New York Jets games you'll be attending the season? Yes, definitely. I just I'm a last minute decider on those things. Not the home opener, but yeah, I'll go to a couple for sure. And maybe I'll post it just in case people want to. I'll never do like an event, to be honest. Like, yeah, like come hang out with the Buffalo Jet fan and we're gonna take a big picture. That's awesome. The guys who do that, that's just totally not my speed at all. But I could say, hey man, I'm gonna be in this lot. If you want to come by and have a beer, that would be the extent of it. I'd be more than happy to meet some of you guys. I just can't do the whole like we're all gonna get together and have our own section and it's like I'm a celebrity or something. I can't do it. I just can't do it. We're in a semi-rebuild. I think that's a fair way to say it. I don't want to trade for draft picks anyways. I'm 50-50 here. We do need one, but a 1-year deal honestly does nothing for longevity. Yeah, man, if you're going to trade for one, it's got to be a player who is going to be here a couple of years. Push the needle. Yeah, man, needle moving. Because I'm looking back, man, in Jets land. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was a year. I can't really think of a year where it was where we had a really good wide receiver one, a really good offensive line, and a capable quarterback in OC and a good running game. But because we didn't have a good second receiver, like that's why our season was horrible. I can't even think of a quarterback in NFL history who was failed because he didn't have a good second receiver. It's like the foundation is offensive line and coaching. And if you have at least one elite weapon, it's going to be obvious like, oh, this dude can play, but he needs a little more. Right? Is Trevor Lawrence not living up to his draft status because of his number 2 receiver? I mean, now he doesn't. Now he's got him, right? No, it's number 1. Maybe he just wasn't that good, let's be honest. But really, it's his offensive line. And now his coaching staff has been fired. Offensive line and coaching. Anthony Richardson, is he being benched because he didn't have a wide receiver 2? Did Trey Lance not work out because of wide receiver 2? Did Zach Wilson not work out because whatever at the time? Well, who was it? Elijah Moore was not a good enough wide receiver 2 those first 2 years? No. Zach Wilson failed because either he couldn't do it, or if he could do it and the Jets failed him, it's because they didn't have the coaching and their offensive line, to be fair, was just injured. They had some decent offensive linemen, but when he played, it was like Carter Warren and Max Mitchell and Billy Turner were in there because our offensive linemen were always hurt. That's why Zach Wilson failed. If Zach Wilson was a good and it was a capable quarterback, like if you believe that, if you're a BYU who's like, no, he was actually good, and he had Joe Brady, just your standard like good play caller, not Sean Payton, not Andy Reid, not Sean McVay, Joe Brady. If Zach Wilson had Joe Brady and Dan Quinn on his coaching staff and a good offensive line and Garrett Wilson, if you believe in Zach Wilson, he would have been fine then. It wasn't because of wide receiver 2. But maybe they'll trade for one. And then we can just say, okay, now they have one. The fall of Lazard. Yeah. I mean, he kind of is what he is. He will make some very nice contested catches. It's just the drops to me are it's so hard to there's such a net negative play, a drop. So uh, yeah, like the Justin Fields fan club, which we welcome you. Hopefully, we don't have to fight. I don't want to fight with Justin Fields fan club. If you want my head coach fired by the bye week because he hasn't worked a miracle with Justin Fields, then yeah, we're gonna bump heads. It is what it is. We're not talking about firing Aaron Glenn if Justin Fields looks like he has the past 4 years. I'm not going there. So if it's gonna come a point this year to stick a to plant a flag, I'm not gonna want to fire my head coach after 6 weeks because Justin Fields fan club is blaming him, especially if he looks like on par with how he's looked his last 17 games. But you're right. Like, let's see. For example, this is Edward. Justin Fields is as good as any QB in the league. The difference is coaching and play calling. Okay. If he's as good as any QB in the league, he'll be fine with Garrett Wilson, Mason Taylor, and a good offensive line. And if Tanner Angstrom can call plays and Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, he'll be all right if he's as good as any QB in the league. Because if we're talking about Jaden Daniels would be fine, right? Josh Allen will be fine. Lamar Jackson will be fine. Joe Burrow would be fine. Fields throwing motion and not so quick decision making are the main reasons why he probably never got. Yeah, I definitely think like if we're talking about because obviously the Bears, he didn't have he didn't have good coaching or good offensive line, right? Those are the things. It's not because he didn't have a wide receiver too. Wasn't why. But he didn't have a good coaching, he didn't have a good offensive line. Okay. So that is why there is plausible deniability that he could be good, but has been failed. There's plausible deniability because he wasn't put in a great situation. Like Trey Lance to me has no plausible deniability. You went to freaking San Francisco, dude. Come on. A 7th round pick went in there and put up like MVP level numbers. So Trey Lance, you're just not good. But Justin Fields, there's some deniability. All right. But of things that is within in his control, like things that are about him as a player, not his circumstances, yes, the time that it takes from the snap to the ball to leave his hand is likely one of the biggest detriments for sure, because he has a slower than average throwing motion. I'm not saying I'm a quarterback expert and the ball has to be here and his foot has to be at a 45-degree angle. It's not rocket science. It takes a longer time than average for the ball to leave his arms, which is why sometimes even in like tight window throws, he has the velocity to get it there, but that split second, could be the difference. Where like we see like Aaron Rodgers is the opposite. Aaron Rodgers, even in his old age with half a broken leg, like that ball was out. Now, half the time it was being intercepted by a defensive lineman or returned for a touchdown last year, but that ball was out quick. So yeah, I would agree with that. That's like almost undeniable because there's no opinion. Like the ball, you can set a timer from when the ball is out, right? So that's why I was encouraged in the preseason. Ball was out fast. Everything you could say about why Field hasn't been successful, you can say about Zach Wilson. Sure. That's fine, but Justin Fields still has been better than Zach Wilson in every metric that measures passing efficiency, and he's a top 3 rushing quarterback. So it's not really a compare. Like even Justin Fields doesn't even establish himself as a starting quarterback, but he's still better than Zach Wilson to anyone who's being honest. But we'll leave it there. Maybe they will get a wide receiver 2, and then we can end the wide receiver 2 debates once and for all. Hopefully it's Alec Pierce. If you want to hit the thumbs up on your way out, that'd be cool. Go Jets.